All right, hello everyone. I'm Mighty Slim, and here we are with the legendary Scarlet Rivera. Scarlett, how the hell are you?
Hey, Mighty Slim, I am here, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Excellent. So tell me about, tell me everything from conception on.
From the get-go.
So you started off on piano when you were 6, and you switched to violin. Why the switch?
You know, I really don't think I had the mind for the double lines. You know, the left hand, the right hand,
Sure.
It's like bottom line of the staff and right. It was very confusing to me to coordinate them, and I think I was cut out to be a single staff line instrumentalist.
Okay.
And I didn't. The teacher never gave me any gold stars, and I was really upset. So I said, yeah, that's enough with the piano. And so I wanted to learn something else. So violin was next.
And what do you remember learning early on in the violin? And you said when you started playing, I read that you felt you really took to it, and it really spoke to you. And
it did. I was a natural, and I had private lessons, and our school had funding for the arts, as all even public schools did at the time. We had a full band and a full orchestra, and shortly got discovered that I had perfect pitch, and ended up having first chair from grade school all through high school.
First chair in the orchestra.
Yeah.
Okay. What was some of the first music that caught your attention? When you for me as a young kid in the 70s, it was disco. Oh, what's this thing called music?
Well, obviously, thankfully, it was classical music and the classical composers that I had to learn. Of course, you don't learn pop music in orchestra.
Sure.
So, but that introduced me to the tremendous minds of the great masters of Mozart and Bach, Vivaldi, Beethoven, Handel, all the other great. I mean, that elevated my thinking and really brought me into way beyond my little backwater hometown to a big world view because of the exposure to those great masters. But when I was in high school, all the music of the day kind of just washed over me. It didn't grab me until I really heard Dylan. That was the first contemporary person to really stop me dead in my tracks.
What was the first Dylan song you remember hearing, or some of the first something from Freewheeling, or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? Where did you grow up?
I was in Joliet, Illinois. It's outside of Chicago, and I was listening to Times They Are Changing, and I feel like I was an activist waiting to be activated, because I never went along with the parental view of what rules and regulations of life should be, and what their right and wrong was. The church, all of that, didn't sit right with me, and everything started to come into more clear view when I listened to his lyrics.
Okay. Were there after Bob, did you start getting more into some of the music at the time?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Then I would listen to, of course I was listening to Janis Joplin and The Doors and King Crimson from England, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and other blues players. I opened my vista to many other people at the time.
Did you? I heard you used to jam along to the records. Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, actually true. I mean, the very first albums I improvised to was John Mayall. And remarkably, about, I don't know, 5+ years later, I ended up sitting in with him in New York City.
Interesting.
After being on Desire. And just this past year, I was asked to be on his latest album. And so it's come full circle from me improvising on that very first album with him to being on his latest album. And this album also includes Robbie Krieger from The Doors.
Excellent. Yep.
So it's like total full circle for listening to John Mayall and The Doors to being on the album with them.
How did you find going from maybe written, playing written lines to improvising? How did you find that transition?
Well, that was pure intuition guiding me. No, I had no improv classes, I did it on my own. I taught myself.
And there was no real. In school, it was mostly orchestra, so
it was just classical orchestra.
There was no jazz involved.
No.
Okay. And then you got to then you got from how'd you get from Illinois to you got to New York?
Well, there's a quite a dramatic in between.
Yeah, okay.
I got thrown out of school for bad behavior.
Okay.
And then I went back home, which I really didn't want to do. And then went into Chicago proper. Lived in Chicago itself, the city, for a very short time. And I realized, that was not my place. I really had a sense that I was drawn to going to New York City, and that's where I would make my mark. Well, while I was in Chicago, I had really become the activist. I had already taken part in protest against the Kent State murders of students with bullets.
Sure.
And I also flew to Washington, D.C. to the biggest Vietnam protest of the day. I think about 500,000 people were there.
Wow. Yep.
And that was a really amazing experience. And I got tear gassed by our own government. So I really got the chance to be boots on the ground activism before I even started my career with Bob.
So now you're finally in New York. So from there, from Chicago, you said I'm out of here. I'm going to New York.
Yeah, but I bought a one-way ticket.
Okay.
And I had no family and no friends.
Yep.
That was a ballsy thing to do.
Sure. So you get to New York and are you doing gigs around and?
Yeah, I was at least referred to a place to start, and I started a crash with some people, and then from there I had saved up some money from summertime jobs when I was living at home, and then I started. I sought out Leroy Jenkins, black jazz kind of violinist, and really hit it off and took some lessons from him. And after a few lessons, he said, "You don't need any lessons." And he introduced me to Ornette Coleman and the Revolutionary String Ensemble. It was my first couple of gigs there in New York.
That's great. What do you remember about Ornette? What kind of guy was he? What kind of guy was he to work with? And
Ornette was such an intellect, and is a very kind, sweet guy. He was writing a Broadway musical, and he really was a command of writing charts, and he wrote out charts for everybody. And the music was really interesting and avant-garde and jazz, and he really loved the fact that he played a little violin himself on the side, so he really knew the instrument. And he was very supportive of me trying to crack through and do something different on violin other than classical.
Okay.
That was my first paying gig, was with Ornette Coleman.
Would you say that was your first taste of playing jazz?
Yeah, it was. Oh, absolutely.
All right. And had you adopted the moniker Scarlet Rivera by then?
No, I hadn't.
Okay.
No, I wasn't even Scarlett yet. That would come a couple months before I met Bob Dylan that I changed my name.
And how did Donna Shay become Scarlet Rivera?
I think Donna Shay was always Scarlet Rivera. And I just had to arrive at that name and then dump that other name.
Okay. So the story goes, were you on your way to a gig when Bob stopped you in the street, or?
It wasn't a gig, but it was a rehearsal.
Okay.
With some, I was, just flitting around and sitting with people. I did have an actual gig at the time with a Cuban band. So I was really experimenting with everything. And I was the only female band member in a 13-piece all-Cuban band. It was my introduction to polyrhythms. And and I also had my own band at the time, which was a rock fusion band. I became a band member of. So that's what I was doing just before I met Bob.
Were those? Did you record any with any of those bands, or it was mostly?
Yes, the rock fusion band is the one is my very first solo album on Warner Brothers. Is the music with those guys.
All right. So I wondered who were the players on that album, and listening to it, I thought the piano player might be you, but it was another guy.
It was a guy named Dominic Cardinal.
Okay.
Really good. And, I really still love the song Frenzy.
Okay.
And Left Back. And what else? Earth Queen. We had our lead singer was Chinese.
Okay.
It was a talk about world music band with a mixed band. I apologize, I don't remember the name of the bass player and the drummer offhand.
Okay, so it was bass, drums, piano, violin, and a singer?
And a lead singer, yeah. And I basically replaced what would have been a lead guitar.
Okay.
So, which was my goal, really. So I was to replace lead guitar on lead violin / guitar.
Sure. Were you aware of any of the other sort of rock, violin players at the time? Maybe from guys like Sugar Cane Harris or Papa John Creed.
Yes, I was aware.
Jean-Luc and
I did meet Sugar Cane Harris. I saw him play Upper West Side one night in the club. Got to meet him and say hi. Matter of fact, when I played on this last John Mayall album, they asked me to play in the spirit of Sugar Cane Harris.
Okay.
Which I did.
Sure.
Because he evidently had played with John Mayall had done several things with Sugar Cane.
Sure.
They really wanted to honor him, and so I was replacing him, in the way he would have played.
Okay. What was it about his playing that you'd say you tried to emulate or?
Well, I didn't emulate it in my own playing.
Right. Yeah.
I just did it on that album.
Okay.
I absolutely didn't want to emulate any other violin
Sure,
playing.
I hear you.
Yeah, including Jean Labonte.
Yeah. Sure. So you're on your way to a rehearsal, and you meet Bob. Now, did he meet your expectations of what you expected Bob to be?
Absolutely, and far beyond.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that night you went to a rehearsal with him. He asked you to come to a rehearsal?
No, it was not a rehearsal.
Okay.
It was just him and I.
Yep.
And he wanted to hear me play. And I was just walking down the street with my case. He insisted on hearing me play and asked me to jump in the car with him. Because at that point I surmised, this is really Bob Dylan, get in the car. And his loft was just a few blocks away. And he gave me quite a test that afternoon because he didn't play the Bob Dylan hits.
Yeah.
You know, if he played Blowing in the Wind, I would easily know how to play along with it.
Sure.
But he played obscure, unknown things or things that hadn't been recorded yet. He didn't give me a chart or tell me what key, and he just said, play along. And he moved from guitar to piano. And after a couple of hours of that, he said, I got to go hear a friend of mine play. You want to come along? And then we back in the car, and we went to the club called The Bottom Line.
Sure.
And the marquee said Muddy Water and band. And so we went in. He kind of plopped me at the bar. And I thought I was just going to listen to the whole show by myself. And I was very excited about that because I had never seen Muddy Water live. And he said, I'll see you later. And he went off. And a few moments later, he is on stage with Muddy Water, and the place went crazy. And but after the first song, he went to the microphone, gave me the shock of my life, and saying, "Now I want my violinist to come up and play."
Okay.
So I scrambled up to the stage, and the stagehand, put a microphone over my violin because I didn't even have an electric violin yet.
Sure.
And all the Muddy Water guys took a solo. And then at one point, Muddy Water gave me the nod to take a solo. And they all stared me down while I was playing. And little by little, one by one, they all smiled.
So that was it. So that was the. So you never, and we'll talk about that in a second, later in the erroneousness of it. But you never went to you never actually went back to Muddy's house and jammed. Your jam was on the stage.
On stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
And talk about seeing if I could cut it on stage. Or if I'd have stage fright, he saw a lot.
Sure.
He was able to test me very thoroughly that night.
Okay. So after that, did you begin rehearsals with him, or?
No. After that, we went into back in the cars at the end of the show, and went to see Victoria Spivey, which is his female blues hero. And muse until dawn with all the Muddy Water band except Muddy Water himself.
Okay.
And that was another, part of the test, probably to see how I do on the road.
That's great. So when did you end up? What do you remember about the first rehearsals?
Well, there weren't any rehearsals for Desire.
Okay.
There was zero rehearsals. Yeah. It was just called in to record, and you learned the song on the spot before you recorded it.
Now, how much of your parts were composed, and how much were that maybe you took a couple takes and said, okay, I'll keep that, and how much was straight improv? It
was all improv, and I didn't have I was not allowed to decide what particular lines I would keep or not. It was one take, and you take everything, and there was no overdubs ever.
Wow. Okay.
So if he didn't like something, anybody did, or wanted to hear some improvement, whether it's a harmony on vocals or the bass player or whatever, we'd have to do the whole song over and over.
The fact that sometimes you weren't given a chance to do something again. Did you think about maybe something you had previously had played?
Oh yeah, I did one time ask if I could overdub something on Sarah because I thought I made a mistake. He goes, nope, no overdubs.
So then now if I wondered about this, when you got to playing live with the Rolling Thunder tour, how much of those parts from Desire did you sort of try to emulate, and how much was improvised?
Well, the things that I came up with that were hooks, I absolutely kept.
Okay.
Like the hook of Isis, I kept live, and the hook of Hurricane, absolutely I kept.
Okay.
And a lot of Desire I kept from the recording to the live.
But there was obviously some sections that you're like, it's going to be different night after
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, no.
What would you say were some of your favorite songs to play from that period?
Oh, I love playing One More Cup of Coffee. Love playing Hurricane.
Yep.
And Isis. Wonderful. Some of the songs that weren't on Desire, Just Like a Woman.
Sure.
Tangled Up in Blue. Unbelievable to be able to play on those songs.
Yep.
Wow.
What you have a favorite gig from that tour that stands out?
I can't say favorite, but
Or among the favorites,
Yeah.
People go, "What's your all-time favorite song?" Well, I can't tell you my all-time favorite, but I can tell you, one of 10.
Yeah. I guess Madison Square Garden was pretty amazing because it was back in my hometown,
Sure.
where I was living, and I never dreamed that I'd play Madison Square Garden. And it was the night that Muhammad Ali was in the audience and came backstage.
Wow, yeah.
And Coretta King was there. So it was quite a stunning, and a huge amount of New York stars. I think Bruce Springsteen came to the show, and Patti Smith. So it was just amazing to be on that stage. But I also really loved the small theaters that we did in the Northeast.
Do you remember Plymouth Memorial Hall?
Plymouth, yes, I do. That was very sentimental to the very first show, too.
That was the first show. Okay.
Yeah. And he was really sensitive to me, knowing I was going to be, really have a little bit of stage fright, considering I'd never done anything this big.
Sure.
And he was really, he helped me tune before the show, which he didn't have to do. I think he did it just to be nice and distracting to me. And show me a little, that go ahead and you can do it.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's going to be all right. Get out there and give them what you got.
Do you remember one of the weirdest gigs you had? One of the weirdest moments you had on that tour?
Oh boy, I don't know if I should say this one. Somebody drugged me.
Okay.
In one of the shows. and
somebody dosed you with acid?
Somebody dosed me with a psychedelic.
Yeah.
And it was in Toronto. I probably was an American, I can't imagine a Canadian doing that.
Okay,
to me. So one of the friends that came into the dressing room, and I don't know why they targeted me, but they did. It was really not a nice thing to do. but it started coming on before the show, and I went, oh my God. And I had bodyguards had to walk me to the stage. And had to like shove me out when it was my time to play. And I honestly don't know what the hell I was playing. And I had to force myself to come back during that song.
Okay.
That was not a pleasant time. That was the weirdest gig.
I was going to say, because sometimes you're either riding the wave or you're consumed by it. That's what I say. Yeah. And so, is it not true? And we'll talk about this. Is it bullshit that you took Bob to see Kiss?
Yes, it's a total lie. That's just not true. It's not. It never happened, and it never would happen.
Okay.
No.
And you had no association with a manager?
I wouldn't say I had no association. And when it was said on stage, in the film that I was dating Gene Simmons, one of my girlfriends was like, "No, you didn't." It's like, yeah, I did, but I didn't know he was in Kiss. He never wore makeup. I just knew him as a nice guy named Gene. I had no idea he was Gene Simmons of Kiss till I knew.
So that part was authentic, but
yes.
But taking Bob to he was
a really nice guy, to be honest. Behind the makeup, he's a very nice guy and smart, and he was. I honestly thought before I knew what he was in, I thought he was conservative.
Okay.
What a crazy thought, because he was telling me that he didn't like women who smoked, and I should not smoke. It was like, what are you, my father? Like, this guy is conservative. Like, I shouldn't be hanging around with him.
Interesting, because of course you've seen the Scorsese film, and I remember saying to my friend, I thought it was great. They said, well, there's some scenes, all the footage is real, but some of the stories are complete bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, like Sharon Stone, I don't think was there.
Yep. The manager, the German manager,
the German guy that was doing all the filming, absolutely wasn't him.
Okay.
He was not the one.
Yep.
He is actually Bette Midler's husband in real life.
Okay.
And he was strictly an actor. They created that whole fictitious thing. I don't know why.
So obviously there's footage from that, but did Scorsese reach out to anybody, sort of post after the actual footage that he actually had? Did he reach out to, because there's interviews with Bob talking about it and.
No. Yeah. Well, I was interviewed by the manager. Everybody was interviewed.
Yeah.
But they only used little clips of whatever they wanted to use.
What's your thought on that? That he made it into a. Because to me, as somebody who likes documentaries, I actually find that disturbing that he turned it into some fictitious thing.
I don't like it. I don't think it needed to be fictionalized.
Right.
I think it was wild and amazing enough without being fiction. I mean, this was as wild as any fiction. What really happened?
Sure.
So I don't think it needed to be fictionalized. And from what I know from some people in the film industry, you can check on this to see if it's true or not, but I was told that if you fictionalize a documentary, you disqualify it from Academy nomination to win an Oscar because it is no longer a documentary.
Great. Excellent. I was gonna, and dare I say, as well, it should be.
Right.
Is it true? Is it true that everyone had nicknames on the road?
Yes.
And you became the Queen of Swords.
Well, I don't think I was a Queen of Swords yet. I think that was given to me for that film.
Okay.
Who knows what my name was? Some called me the Ice Princess.
Okay.
Because I was very cool and remote.
What kind of guy was Mick Ronson?
Oh, he was wonderful, and smart, and I mean, there's so much more to him than just a guitar player. He's an amazing musician all around.
Sure.
And, arranger, and I think keyboards as well, a little bit. A very warm guy, and I enjoyed his company. I hung out with him a little bit after the tour.
Okay.
I remember getting very drunk on tequila with him.
Okay, that works. I often say that you have a very direct sound when you play. It's really, I feel it's a direct communication. To your instrument, from your soul, your instrument, to the audience. Thoughts on that?
I think I was always guided. Yeah, I had a feeling, I had an inner guide of what to play. I mean, I was finally given the opportunity to deliver what I thought I had.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure 100% where it was how it was gonna be rated in the big picture.
Sure.
I never dreamed that I would replace Eric Clapton in my playing.
Yeah.
I had confidence in my playing, but I don't know. I was self-taught mostly from what I did, and to this day, I'm very much guided by I have a great musical foundation.
Sure.
And I'm not a really good theory person. I never passed a great theory test.
Sure.
Or got A's in theory.
Right.
But I just haven't.
But you'd understand. I'm in the key of A minor. I understand the natural minor scale.
I know in theory inside and out without having passed that test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever used effects on like a wah-wah pedal?
Oh, absolutely. Even with my very first band. My very first band that I'm on, the Warner Brothers album.
Yep.
The first two. I used wah-wah pedal on at least, I think, on the song Frenzy. I'm positive I used my wah-wah pedal.
Okay.
And I was pretty much a pioneer of rock electric violin right from that point on.
Absolutely.
And I also even bought a 5-string later from Ned Steinberger. I had a Steinberger violin. I had a Marcus Berry. I had a Zeta. I had everything. I even had a MIDI violin.
Wow, how fun was that to play?
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, when's the last time you spoke with Bob?
I would say in the God, I don't have a date on that.
10 years, 20 years?
Maybe 10 years.
10 years ago? Okay.
Yeah.
What does the in the movie you talked about challenging the impossible, and your what does that mean for you, and what maybe scenarios have you found you sort of applied that to?
That whole scenario was challenging the impossible for me.
Yeah.
And I had the courage to keep doing it. I mean, I was fearless on stage.
Yep.
Not so much off stage. I was very shy and full of problems. But when I was on stage, I was, a monster and very ballsy and confident in what I was doing. And that helped cut through into the impossible. And I think, just guidance led me to some, destiny things that, because of being open, maybe they happened. Like years later I met Duke Ellington's son and ended up in the Duke Ellington Orchestra as a soloist, and things like that happened to me, which to me, if I really thought about it, I would say, nah, that can't happen. It's impossible.
Sure.
But I've somehow went into the realm of the impossible more than once.
What similarities do you feel in your own playing? Do you find when you play, say, between playing jazz and maybe Celtic music or classical? Similar. What similar thread do you feel in your own playing?
Well, I feel similar threads between Americana and Celtic, heavily, and because I play a lot of Celtic, Irish, traditional songs, and I have also been in a bluegrass band at one point, and so I pull stuff from that I learned technique-wise in Americana, and I put them in other songs in other genres, even world music. I pull stuff from that I learned in Americana to even regular mainstream songs.
What aspects of your playing do you feel you're still trying to perfect?
Always perfect the technique of classical, because I always go back to my classical repertoire, and I can tell my level based on how good I'm playing that. Let's say Vivaldi, concerto.
Okay.
In E, let's say. And when I play that well, I know that I'm really warm and my fingers are flying. I'm ready for anything.
So well, in your estimation, would be more a flow, more of a solid flow than a.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you feel the role of the artist is in society?
The role of the artist is tremendously important. Never more important is the artist is a mirror of a reflection of what's happening in society, and we have the opportunity and the platform to speak out and to draw people into a deeper understanding of that, whether it's political or social or just on a deeper level of deepening your own humanity and sensitivity.
Talk to me a little about your animal rights activism. That's important for me. And
oh man, my life, that is one of the most important thing in my life other than music is animal protection, wildlife protection, and of their environments, their habitats. I related to them, I think, from childhood more than human beings, and identify with their innocence and the lack of corruption in their being.
Sure.
And so I am super passionate about bringing awareness to that, to anything that can help save. And we're at a critical point now,
Sure,
where some of the most iconic species that have ever lived for millions of years are on the brink of extinction now. So we have to really assess how humanity is bringing, through encroachment and pollution and, just the stuff that they live an entire life without littering or packaging or
sure,
leaving any trash behind. Yep. We are trashing the earth, and many industries and corporations are willingly and happily just torching it.
Sure.
So I'm dedicate the rest of my life to do everything I can to reverse that or bring awareness to help.
Great. Do you still have the blues for all of violin?
I do not have that blues for all of violin. It's probably in an attic in an old boyfriend's house. Yeah.
Were you a fan of the Grateful Dead at the time you put the sticker on? Yeah.
Not so much. I just love that sticker. I was never a Deadhead.
Sure. Yeah.
I listened to a little bit of their stuff. But
Okay.
I adored that sticker.
Interesting. And what would you say? A couple more things. The most important life lesson you feel you've learned.
Wow, that's a big one. To be grateful for what I have, and not to be caught up in what things didn't happen or didn't get, or to really concentrate on the positives and have a gratitude and be willing to share the gifts that I got with the world.
And we're so grateful you did. Any plans? I heard some great live stuff that you did with Eric Andersen.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff get recorded?
Yes.
Any of it get released?
Not officially, but we're still working on that.
Okay.
And I'm supposed to go back in the studio and record me as a vocal doing when everything changed, which is a perfect song right now because everything changed last year, and his lyrics are so prophetic, man. I mean, I chose that song to do before this all happened. So I still look forward to going into the studio and recording that soon, actually.
Where do you see, and finally, where do you see, once the pandemic is finally over and we finally move through it, where do you see maybe a renaissance of music coming,
Oh, God, yes.
We're finally able to play live again in front of people. And
people are going to go crazy with the love of the arts. I mean, they really missed the arts tremendously. And how meaningful live arts were and are really was underscored by its absence this year. So, like when I was on tour in Europe, I mean, the Italian people and the European people, they are like worship live music. They are so respectful of live music. Here is like, hey, can you turn down? And I've heard it before. Not so much respectful in the U.S. as in Europe, but I think that might turn around because of the absence.
Interesting. And finally, what advice would you give to young up-and-coming musicians who maybe think, this is too hard, I'm out of here?
It's always going to be hard. If it's easy, it's not worth it.
Okay, sounds great. Well, Scarlett, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting and hanging with you, and we thank you for your time, and please continue to do what you do, and for all of us who love your work, I speak for me and many people, and thank you for your great music.
Thank you, Slim.
All right.